Okay, good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all here. We have a very special treat here today with the work of Dennis Gregor and Michelle Szabo. And I'm going to call on Craig to introduce them because he has known Dennis and Michelle for quite a while and he knows the significance of their work. Craig, over to you.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to have Dennis and Michelle here. They're doing phenomenal work, both in the area of compiling the information that people need to know, that humankind needs to understand, and in bringing afterlife communication to people, to widespread people, through having voices across the veil, which is enabling people to have afterlife communication experiences with a qualified medium without the exorbitant cost and without having to leave home. So they're doing pioneering work, and so it's a delight to have them today. And so I'll turn it over to you, Michelle and Dennis.
Thank you so much, Craig, for the wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure working with you in terms of distributing this information and to broaden the knowledge of everyone that is willing to listen to it. And thank you, Wendy, for inviting us here. It's always a pleasure and it's an honor to participate in these group gatherings. It's really wonderful. And I also want to say to Karen that welcome back. I know you've been through some trying circumstances in a life-saving mission under catastrophic conditions, and it's good to see you back here.
Thank you, Dennis.
I'd like to outline what we're going to be presenting today, and then I'll turn it over to Michelle to start. But we're going to Michelle's going to present a review of Afterlife data, Afterlife library, and Voices Across the Veil, the work that we've done and the work that we're doing. And then I'll take over and introduce some new projects that we have in mind that we would like to kind of turn this into a work setting and get your insights and advice and wisdom on these projects and learn from you. It's always better to have ideas and foresight rather than hindsight. So if there's any kind of changes that you see that we should make in what we present that we're going to be doing, this is a perfect forum to do it. And then afterward, Michelle's going to then present some other information regarding the kind of work that we need to do in order to be able to analyze the data and other aspects of this research that require more time on our part. And then after that, we'll have the question and answer where you can give us the feedback. So right now, I'll turn it over to Michelle for the introduction.
Thank you so very much. I'm going to start off just with a quick overview of the three websites, which is Afterlife Data, Afterlife Library, and Voices Across the Veil. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, just a very quick overview so that everybody knows where we're coming from, because I know that I see some new faces, and I just want to be sure that everybody has a pretty good idea of the type of work that we're doing. There will always be time at the end during the question and answer to just, ask some additional questions about these sites, and I'm sure there'll be lots of things that come up, so just bear with me. Our first website, afterlifedata.com, explores life after death topics. And we've started with this website on the heels of the wonderful work of Mike and Jackie Davis, who I am so pleased are also here on this session. So welcome, Mike and Jackie. Their website, afterlife101.com, went over 265 life after death topics, and they asked questions about all of those different things. And what we did with Afterlife Data is we said, well, okay, that's great, but that's just one source. What do other sources say? Sources like Michael Newton, Alan Kardec, Jane Roberts, and many other very well-respected sources on afterlife information. And we took all of that and we put it up on afterlifedata.com. So all of that information is here. And let me just go to our different sections. And you can see that we have it organized by the death experience for adults, for children, transformation from human to spirit, the afterlife, reincarnation, and life on earth. And within each one of those areas, if I just click on the afterlife, you'll see that there's a lot of other topics there. Arrival in the spirit home, you know, your human form, schooling about life lessons, workers and teachers, just lots and lots of different information. And we've looked at all of the different data that we found so far and said, well, does this agree or does it disagree with the findings on Afterlife 101? And then we've kind of gone from there. We continue to build on this work, and we have lots of new information to add to it. Moving on to Afterlife Library. Afterlife Library came out of the work of Afterlife Data, where we said, well, you know, we've got all of these wonderful sources on afterlife data that we've used, but there's also a lot of other sources that are really important as well. And we needed some place to put those things. So Afterlife Library has now grown to nearly 3,000 books on information such as the afterlife, consciousness, all that. Let's see, I'm going to go right into these different areas. We have the afterlife, consciousness, paranormal information, reincarnation, religion, science, just lots and lots of different sources of information related to this work. And you can see this is just the afterlife section. It's got lots and lots of books on it. So you can go there, you can read about these books, and you know, then you can go ahead and purchase them off of Amazon or, you know, whatever other sources we have listed there. During our time working on Afterlife Data and Afterlife Library, we continued to get requests from people around the world about mediums. You know, do we know any mediums? They wanted to work with a medium, and they couldn't find any in their area. So we were scratching our head a lot going, you know, why are they coming to us? I mean, you know, yeah, afterlife stuff and that, you know, connects with mediums and everything, but, you know, we just didn't know mediums all over the place. So we decided that Voices Across the Veil was going to be born. And Voices Across the Veil, I'm just going to bring that up, is a website where people can sign up for very inexpensive, short sessions with a medium during a time that is convenient for them. It's very inexpensive, and you can do it right from your own home. You just log on to, now they will be Zoom sessions, and you just come on. We have a maximum of 6 people in each one of the sessions, and an experienced medium comes on and does communications for you. So that's been quite exciting. I'd also like to share with you very quickly some of the data that we had for Voices Across the Veil for the first few years. And if it's okay, I'm going to just play a short 4-minute video that gives you an overview of that program and some of the data that we found so far. This is an overview of the Voices Across the Veil research project and the data we've collected over the first 3 years. Voices Across the Veil was launched in July 2014 as a research project for AfterlifeData.com. This project offers online small group communication sessions with a highly skilled medium. During the first 3 years of the project, we have had 54 sessions with 120 unique participants. Each participant is informed of the purpose of the study, their right to withdraw, and the ethical guidelines we follow. They are also given a variety of privacy options from which they can select. Once a person has signed up for a Voices Across the Veil session, they are asked to fill out a pre-session questionnaire. This questionnaire covers a variety of topics from demographic information and their beliefs to their previous experiences with the medium. After answering the pre-session questionnaire, the participants, the medium, and a moderator sign on to the session. The people who attend these sessions are varied, from teens to seniors. Their ethnicity right now is primarily American Caucasian. This is due to the fact that we hold our sessions in English and are based in the US. However, we are seeing a lot of interest from people across the globe, and we do expect a wider variety of ethnicities as we expand and more people know about the program. As for education, we are seeing most of the participants holding some type of postgraduate degree, but as you can see, people from all levels of education have participated. When we look at religion, there is an interesting trend away from people's birth religions, so people are searching for better answers. In addition, when we asked about people's ritual practice, those who meditated spent more time doing so over praying. Another important measurement is one of death anxiety. This is a person's emotional response to death. In our participants, we see that nearly 80% of them show low death anxiety levels. We also assess participants' attitudes toward death, from fear of death to acceptance. So far, those who have participated show a low fear of death and greater acceptance of it. This means that those less fearful and in less denial are more willing to participate in Voices Across the Veil sessions. After someone participates in a Voices Across the Veil session, they are then asked to fill out a post-session questionnaire. In this questionnaire, we ask people to compare their experiences and beliefs. 85% of our participants tell us that they received recognizable communication during their session, and they noted that it was even slightly more accurate than private or group sessions they had had previously with mediums. We also asked participants if they believed in life after death before and after their session. We see that although there is a high belief in life after death before the session, there is an increase based on their Voices Across the Veil experience. To summarize, we know this online format works well for mediumistic communication. We also know we have helped people change their lives for the better. And we know that there is some type of existence after physical death. We are also seeing that the communications from different areas of the world are very similar, and we are recognizing validation from some of the topic areas on afterlifedata.com. By joining us, you can be part of the world's largest multicultural study on afterlife communication. You can experience your own mediumistic session for a fraction of the regular cost, and you will contribute to a growing body of work to help expand consciousness worldwide. And last but not least, you will help us to expand the scope of evidence on afterlifedata.com. So I hope that helped everybody kind of come up to speed and understand what we're doing. So at this point, I think I'm going to turn it over to Dennis so that he can talk about some of the new things that we're looking at doing with Voices Across the Veil and Afterlife Data.
Thank you. There are 3 projects that I'm going to describe today. There's actually a 4th one, but we're still working on the protocols, and there's some technical issues that we need to resolve. But I'd like to describe these 3 and then get your feedback in regards to what you think of them and what advice and insight you might give us. The first one we're calling Exploring the Afterlife. This is an outgrowth of having some sessions where people arrived that the sitters, none of the sitters knew who they were. In some cases, the mediums were able to find out that they were not yet had transitioned to the light. I'll explain a bit in terms of the light and darkness in the second project. But in this first one, it came to mind after discussing why some people were showing up that the sitters were not aware of, did not know. We decided to try an experiment. And so our first project, and I presented this at our last session to see what the responses would be from our sitters and the mediums, and they were pretty ecstatic about having it, doing this type of project. And what we're planning on doing is, as Afterlife Data, as the moderators, we're going to reserve the last 10 minutes of each session after the sitters have had their readings. And we're going to invite whoever wants to show up from the afterlife and to give us information, as well as their purpose for basically coming into one of a Voices Across the Veil session. It may be a person that previously incarnated on Earth and they're in the astral. It's possible that guides may show up, or even entities from beyond the astral planes. And what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to get a visual description of the person or entity from the medium. If it's a person that lived on Earth, we'd like to get their name, if it's possible, the city and country that they lived in, the era that they may have lived in. They may have lived 200 years ago on Earth. Whether there's any living relatives or friends, so that we can actually confirm with them that this person knew them. And also maybe whether there's historical records or references that can be looked up so that we can validate the information that comes through in these 10-minute vignettes. We would also like to look at find out information regarding the cause of their death, when the transition took place, how the transition occurred, a description of what it was like when they were leaving the body. Was there anyone there to assist them in the transition? And were they able to transition to the light right away, or were they in an earthbound condition initially? And also find out where they currently are at the time of the session, what their environment is like. So we would like to find out more in terms of their environment as well, in relation to activities, education, what they do there, just more information about the afterlife realms and what it's like once one transitions into one's new body and new place of, or new home. Also, we would like to develop a relationship with some of the people that visit, or even if there are guides or other entities, and have them also go to other Voices Across the Veil sessions for cross-validation purposes. To be honest with you, our mediums don't know each other. So they don't talk, and I know that one of the issues will be that, well, one medium gets on the phone and calls the other one and says, this is what, I found out. Our trust in our mediums, and they don't know each other. They wouldn't do this. In the last session when I presented this, the medium was ecstatic about exploring the afterlife further. Because in many cases, the people that are coming through are relatively new to the astral environment. They're new to their body. They've just probably been trained in how to communicate. They have to lower their vibrations in order to be able to communicate with us. And so they may still be learning what the afterlife is like. We may get others that have been there in our time, even though from my perspective, time doesn't exist. But in terms of the way we think of time, they could have been there for hundreds of years, and they may be stuck. And so we're looking at this 10-minute vignette or reservation of time at the end of a session as kind of an experiment to explore what kind of information we can get and whether we can be of any help to those on the other side. Which brings us into the second project, because I think what might happen is that that will be an outgrowth of this. So the second project we're calling the Soul Assistance Project. And to give you an idea, T.E. Lawrence communicated back in 1964 through a medium by the last name of Sherwood. And he described that when he first came into the afterlife realms, he was in the darker areas, to the point where he didn't know that he could manifest just about anything through thought alone. So he was there naked, in an environment, looking, trying to figure out what to do. He saw a town there or a village. He went in there. There actually was a clothing shop. He went into the clothing shop, and there was a shopkeeper. And he said, I don't have money. He's in the afterlife, and he's still worried about being able to pay for clothing. And the shopkeeper waved him over to the clothes and said, take whatever you want. After he was able to transition to the light, he communicated this information. He actually communicated for well over 20 some years, from like 1939 to 1964, thereabout. And so it's interesting that even though you're in the new body and you actually can manifest just about anything that you want instantaneously after some training, there are realms or areas there where people are still unaware of what they can do or where they're at or how to evolve even more. I know Jürgen Zui in his book, Vistas of Infinity, and also William Buhlman talks about in their OBE travels that they've been in areas where, for example, there's an area where there's Chinese people that are living in large buildings in very small apartments, packed in with 10 or more souls living in apartments, and not knowing that it could be different because of certain belief systems that have been in vogue now for 300 years in Western civilization and also Eastern, where the universe is considered to be an accidental creation, where people have doubt whether life after death exists. When you go into the afterlife, you go in with all the beliefs that you had when you were on Earth. And so there's a retraining or an attempt made by those on the, what are called the Summerlands or the upper astral levels. They actually undertake work to go and help those that are in still the darker levels that are still unaware of where they're at or what's happened to them. And so they actually train and go, and they have to actually learn how to lower their vibrations to go into these darker areas to try to help these people. And when you think about it, for 5 years now, Voices Across the Veil, we've had spirits coming to help us, to explain to us, give us evidence regarding life after death, and that they still were very much alive, and to soothe the sitters, in our sessions. And I think maybe it's time to return the favor, that this is maybe a way that we can actually maybe be trained by guides on the other side to learn how to communicate with some of those people that are able to visit with us and perhaps provide them with some knowledge regarding where they're at and maybe they can and help them transition. I know that there's a lot of spirits right now that are undertaking the work to go into the lower realms, and there's a lot of out-of-body projection people that are doing it from Earth. And I don't think that this is an idea that came to us. I think this is an idea that was given to us from the afterlife. I think we know that there's been coordination on the other side. When I had a conversation on the phone with one of our mediums, mid-sentence basically, a guide came through, named himself Mojave, and said that he's helping support the program. And so I think that maybe this is something that they're asking us to do. I know in earlier historical writings, there's a lot of commentary by communicators on the other side that said there's many, many people that are coming over that are not even aware that they're dead. They're not sure what to do. They don't know how to use their new body, and they need training and help. And so I think that the first project with the 10-minute vignette where we explore gathering information that we can actually then use to compare with the historical writings also on afterlife data, but also to find out more information of how to communicate with people that come in basically unannounced into Voices Across the Veil sessions. And then I think if it turns into a larger project called the Soul Assistance Project, where we can maybe spend as much as an hour doing an hour session. And I think even if participants are there listening to this happening, it could be a great learning experience, a very eye-opener for everyone to see that the afterlife is more than just, you know, playing harps or having wings. There's a lot of work that goes on there. There's a lot of tasks that need to be done. There's a whole new learning experience when one goes into the afterlife realms that require special training and education. And even though in the upper Summerland, so to speak, it's beautiful and it's wonderful, there are areas that you know, could use, I think, some assistance, and it would be nice if we could provide that from our end, and also, you know, train ourselves in terms of our own expectations of when we transition, what we'll find when we get there. So those are the first two projects. One is the 10-minute vignette, reserved time. The second is perhaps an hour long, maybe an hour and a half session where we invite whoever wishes to come in and communicate with us. The third is basically, we haven't given it a name yet, but it's going to deal with channeling. And we would like to find channelers that will be able to communicate with entities that can give us a broader description of non-physical reality, as well as the purpose for physical incarnation in terms of planets like Earth. This information, again, will be compared with the afterlife data topics so that we can then compare the consistency of the information. We'll develop separate question sets that will be used to define and explore the various topics on afterlife data that we can ask of these entities. In terms of channelers, I see two types from my own personal perspective. One deals mostly with conceptual issues like you know, love and compassion and fear and various emotions that we experience and how to deal with those in living on Earth. A second type of channeler that we found, or that I think, and the kind that we want to actually interact with, are more evidential. And they're ones that not only can explain the concepts, but also the underpinnings of the concepts. And that is how non-physical reality and physical reality operates, the basis of the underpinnings that allow us to form the world that we're in. Some of the evidential mediums that I'm talking about that have come in the past are people like Edgar Casey, Silver Birch, who was channeled by Maurice Barbanel, and I know Victor and Wendy, it's one of their favorites, is Silver Birch. Hilarion was channeled by Keith Ryerson in the 1980s and was also known to Madame Blavatsky and Leadbeater in the early 1900s. Joel Kuehl, who was channeled by Alice Bailey for some 40-some years. in the mid-1900s, and also was known to Madame Blavatsky. Romola from the Romola Center, the Ra Group, channeled by Carlo Riker in the 70s and 80s, and Seth, which is my personal favorite, by Jane Roberts from the early 1960s and early 1980s. Current evidential channelers that are operating today are like Bashar, who's channeled by Daryl Anka, Elijah by Jim Charles, and Elias by Mary Innes. So we're looking to also find channelers of that caliber if possible, and to bring them in for 90-minute sessions that we will then ask question sets on various topics of the afterlife in order to expand our knowledge. To give you an idea in terms of Earth and the size of the universe, Seth, in one of his communications, said it wasn't to make us look small, it was to show us the vastness of all that is. And he said that all of human history and all of potential human history and all of the current undertakings that are going on Earth right now would fit 1,000,000 times smaller on a single note among all the compositions that have ever been written in music and that will ever be written. And that's the vastness of all that is. So it just, to give us a perspective, there's a lot to learn. and so we would like to try to, through this channeling program, to expand this knowledge and to give us a greater appreciation and wonder of the universe and of all that is that we live in. And to also give us knowledge also in terms of how things operate and how we can operate in a way that allows us to better our lives and help support others, and to appreciate the fact that we're in an incarnation in a way to learn how to operate, that we're kind of new consciousnesses learning how to expand beyond this plane into others where thought is instantaneous. And here we're learning how to co-create, and we're given a chance to learn and undo something that we don't like and change it. So that is the third project.
As you can see, just from Dennis's presentation, this work really means a tremendous amount to us. I know that after some of these sessions, we get off from a Voices Across the Veil session and it's hard to even speak, because some of the information is just so profound and so evidential. And it is just so meaningful to not only us, but especially to the sitters, because the information that comes through literally changes their lives, and they realize that things aren't as bad as what they thought they were, that the people that they wanted to communicate with and connect with are very much alive. So, they might not be here with us in physical, but they are very much alive. So there is a lot of work that has to be done on all of this. And just a few other things. We're looking to do more research on afterlifedata.com, which is a lot of what Dennis was talking about. And although we're doing it through the Voices Across the Veil project, a lot of that information, if not all of it, will end up on afterlifedata.com. There are many more resources for Afterlife Library that we want to be putting up. There's also transcription of the Voices Across the Veil sessions. We'd like to do more in-depth analysis of those sessions, and we'd like to do that through transcribing the work, as well as using advanced statistical software to analyze the questionnaires and information. Because right now, what we've done with the data that you saw earlier in that video that I played, that was all hand analyzed. That was thanks to Dennis and Dr. Michelle Waring over in the UK, who works with us. They both just kind of dug in and said, okay, what does all of this mean? And thank goodness they both have PhDs in research psychology, because I'm not sure that I could have gotten through it. It's a lot of information, and it's really important. We'd also like to be putting out some more writings, for example, blogs or lectures specifically centered around topics that people are interested in, making them easily readable and more digestible. Just like the data off of Voices Across the Veil, if you just kind of saw that data, it doesn't mean a whole lot until you start really analyzing it and looking at it and saying, okay, what does that mean? Okay. So we would like to be able to present information in a more approachable way. We'd also like to present the data in a wider variety of formats. Right now we have Afterlife data and a few videos that we've done, but there's so much more information that can be pulled out of all of the work that we're doing, and we'd like to be able to do that as well. So having said that, I would like to put in a little bit of a plug for our new Patreon page. We very, very recently, just within the last couple of weeks, launched a Patreon page. And if you know of anybody that is interested in helping us to reach these goals, we would love to have their support, not just financially, but also from a perspective of input. What do you think? What do you think would be a good thing to do? What kind of questions do you have? Help guide us so that this information is very meaningful to people. And that's really, really important to us. As a matter of fact, that video that I played for you earlier is also on our Patreon page. So if you'd like to rewatch that, please feel free to go there. There are links all over our websites to go and see that, so I won't dwell on that too much. I think with all that being said, we'd like to open it up to questions. Dennis, is there anything else that?
No, I mean.
No? Okay.
It's a time and work intensive endeavor. Just to give you an idea, I have 245 pages of quotes that still need to be categorized and classified and entered onto Afterlife data. And just transcribing videos just takes hours and hours. So it's just to let you know that if anyone wants to volunteer, that'd be great.
Wow. I'm speechless, Dennis and Michelle, that what you are doing is so pioneering. It's absolutely incredible. And of course, building on the original work of Afterlife 101 that Mike and Jackie did so many years ago, that we're still so grateful for. And wonderful to have you both with us again today. Okay, over to everybody for questions.
Dennis, we have had visitors come through in our circle and just pop in. And some of them are well known, and some of them we didn't know at all. And then we would do validations afterwards and look up their information. And sure enough, all the information matched a real person. Oh. And we do interview them briefly, and then they take off. They don't stay. But I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful concept. And I think that it's going to add so much to the literature and to what we know. And, we've decried the fact that those who are interviewing Leslie Flint's speakers who came through, that they kept asking the same questions over and over again and didn't get around to interviewing the people who are coming through. And we've said, well, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had some direct voice people who could do that now? And this is a step in the right direction. I mean, having the mediums, having it come through the mediums, is just a wonderful idea, because there's so much we can learn from them. And you'll be able to do that. And I think the idea of having a separate session in which you have people come through and interview them, I think that's going to be especially good, because the teams on the other side are going to devote the time during that time to bringing through people. And they'll actually choose them, as they did for Leslie Flint. They'll choose the people who come through who are going to give you the information that humankind needs. And after a while, then the controller, whoever it is that's doing it on the other side, is going to make this a normal way of operating, that they're going to be bringing through one person and another person. And in Leslie Flint's case, it was the controls who were on the other side that would bring through people, like they would bring through presidents and kings, and but also commoners and a highwayman, and they would choose who to bring through to enlighten humankind. And I think they'll do the same thing for you. Once you get this set up, they're going to be cooperating with you. And I think it's just a wonderful endeavor.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm glad to see that it's actually working. And do they say what the purpose is if they come in? Is it just to give the information, or do you have people that also need help in terms of assistance from the other side?
In Leslie Flint's case, they would come through for various reasons. Dr. Marshall would bring people through for various reasons. Timmy would bring people through and to enlighten humankind, or to bring a special message, or to give a perspective on something. So for a great variety of reasons, they would bring the people through whom we needed to hear from. And I know they'll do that for the teams. Are going to do that for you.
Oh, great.
I do research for a living, and the video that you showed and the brief little snapshot of this is our code of ethics, and this is, you're agreeing to participate in research, but you always have the right to withdraw. I mean, this is a format that is standard to the industry of all types of research. And I just think I want to give you a shout out, because it's so important that you follow those formulas, so that the data that you collect can't be invalidated by someone because you followed the appropriate processes. So I just wanted to really underscore how important that is, and the fact that it was present for those who don't do this all day, every day as I do. That's a vital piece. Even though it might seem insignificant, it really is important. So thank you for that.
That's very interesting. Can you tell me how you select the mediums, and have you identified what proportion you have of mental mediums versus trance mediums, and what kind of depth of trance do you record that they might go into when they do the channeling, for example?
Okay. In 2014, when we were putting together Voices Across the Veil, we canvassed well over 200 mediums from around the world. We had 3 different people look at their websites, look at references, look at recommendations, see what kind of experience, how long they've been doing it, whether they were evidential mediums, whether they also worked in groups as well as private. And then we had rankings and ratings. And we selected like the top 20, and then started making phone calls to see whether they would be interested. So the mediums that we have currently are ones that have had actually profound sessions, especially over the last couple of years, where they've gotten used to the technology. As for the trance mediumship, I'm not sure yet in terms of the measurement of their depth. One of the mediums that we have actually channels both on the lower astral as well as beyond in the causal plane, and works with a group that works with John of God. We have had only one test with her right now, and we're going to actually have more. But we're actually in a search right now for channelers, mediums that go to the depth of like a Jane Roberts or Edgar Casey. And so we're open to any recommendations, so then contact them and go further with some tests. We're not going to put that up until we know that we've had a sufficient amount of tests that we feel good about the information that is coming through, that we trust the entities that are coming through, and so that, the participants will get a benefit from that. As you know, there's a lot of non-physical entities out there that have different agendas. And so we want to make sure that we're getting those on the level of a Seth or a Rod.
Thank Dennis and Michelle. It was a great presentation. The work that you're doing is just incredible. I just wanted to report just a little thing, and that is that I did a Voices Across America, or Voices Across the Veil, for them. And I was super shocked at what really happened. I just assumed a loved one would come through, but I'm a clinical counselor, and it was actually a young man that came through whose siblings had died in a fire, in a house fire. He and his siblings had died in a house fire, and I had worked with his mom, and this had been about 25 years ago. And I had kind of completely forgot about the case. And as the medium was talking about this young man, I didn't really know who this was, although I work with a lot of parents whose adolescents have died. So I was trying to kind of figure out who this was until he gave me the circumstances of the fact that he and his siblings had been killed in a fire. And because there were so many of them, it clicked immediately. And he just wanted to come through to say thanks for the work that I had done with his mom. So that was a real shock to me. So I think that what Dennis and Michelle are talking about is that, sometimes the entities want to come through to thank us and to do those things. That was certainly nothing that I had ever considered might happen. But that's kind of another focus on this too. So thank you very much for the work that you do.
Oh, thank you, Jane.
Dennis and Michelle, I think that you can have your mediums interview or talk to the team that's working with you on the other side. You can get direct guidance from them, and they will cooperate with you. I mean, they will answer questions and suggest, well, this is a good idea or that's a good idea. And we do that regularly in our circle. So we're always asking them, well, what do they think about this? And what about this person who might join the circle? And they then advise us very clearly about what it is that we should and shouldn't do. And they're very helpful to us. I'd recommend that.
That's a great idea. Yeah. We will do that.
One thing that comes to mind, Dennis and Michelle, is if we could use Zoom to have a series of short videos of both of you talking about one section of the information that you've gathered. For example, what happens to children when they cross over. Even if you just talk about what you've learned on different topics, we could put together a series of these. We find that videos are far more effective than the written word at the moment. I know that time is the big issue, time and energy. We hope that we can get some volunteers with.
What kind of volunteer work would you need somebody to help out with? Like, would it be transcribing? What kind of volunteer work would you need?
Yeah, transcribing would be great. Plus, like I said, we've compiled now pages and pages, 245 pages of quotes that need to be classified and put onto Afterlife data. If we could, hand some of those over and have people do that, that would be wonderful. Also, in terms of video, picking out particular significant, profound communications or dialogues between the medium, the communicator, and the sitter, so that if we can get the approval of the sitter, and sometimes that could be shown, or else we can at least have the transcripts, and we can make anonymous the person's name in that, but at least show the information that's coming through. That would be a big help. We actually do our own web programming and that, so we'll do create the pages where this information can be displayed. But I don't know, Michelle, can you think of other?
I think right now the transcribing and just preparing the videos after sessions are two really big areas. I mean, we actually about a year ago put together a business plan and everything just to see, what it would actually take to do this full time. And the transcribing alone, I forget the number, Dennis, 500,000, 250,000, I forget. It was such a huge number, which was part of the impetus for, doing things like Patreon and, trying to get people interested in helping us with this, from a financial level, because, unfortunately we're not independently wealthy, although I would be doing this full time. But it does take a tremendous amount of time on our part. And oftentimes we just have to say, okay, well, we can do this today, but, we can't get to these things. It's just a time thing. So
not only the transcribing, but we would also like to translate. We've gotten so many messages from people around the world asking if, the website can be put into their language. And that gets really costly when you start translating into different languages. So
yeah, I think I'm going to jump in on that just a little bit, because I think translation of the websites, probably because it is such a huge task, probably will be limited to things like Afterlife data first. The real issue with that I see is some of the data that we have, the verbiage, the words that were used were so specific and so carefully selected. Particularly, I'm going to bring Seth up because that is what I'm most familiar with, and it comes to mind very, very quickly for me. When Jane Roberts channeled Seth, the words that he used were very specific. There was not a word out of place, which was just amazing, over the amount of time that work was produced. And to translate that into another language has to be done very, very carefully in order to not change the meaning of it. And I know that the Seth material was translated into a number of languages already, but there are certainly other pieces of work that have not been. So I do think that's really, really important to make sure that when those translations are done, that they're done with great care.
No, it's an observation. There's a professor went on British TV, Professor Dawkins. He's the voice piece for atheism. And he did a series of programs where he looked into religion and he looked into spiritualism. That entailed visiting one spiritualist church, watching one demonstration of mediumship, having one private sitting, and then concluding the mediumship was cold reading. So I think, Dennis and Michelle, what you're doing is incredible, because it struck me when I saw this atheist saying that it's all cold reading, that, hang on, there's 315 union churches in Britain. There's countless other Christian spiritualist churches, innumerable independent centres. Each of those venues have a medium working twice a week usually. A medium can give 10 facts in 10 minutes. So multiply the number of mediums, the number of occasions, times the facts that are given, and you've got an incredible weight of evidence. But it's only the likes of yourself and Michelle, your organization, that is recording those innumerable times that these facts are being given, that a person, third party, couldn't possibly know. So you're actually building incredible evidence. And I think we all need to congratulate you on making that effort to provide that evidence to counter the bland accusation by an atheist that we're cold reading.
Oh, thank you very much.
Just an observation. Thanks very much.
Thank you. It's very kind.
What you're doing sounds very similar to the Windbridge Institute. I don't know if you looked into them.
We're familiar with their work, yes.
Right, yeah. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I'm wondering also if it would be possible for you to do a couple of experiments with Sonia Rinaldi, where some of the people that she's contacting can also contact you through the the station.
Sure.
Craig, what do you think about that? Is that something that's feasible?
Yeah, we need to do a lot more of this cross-pollination, where we have mediums coming through with messages, and then we have the ITC coming through with messages, and self-guided afterlife communications coming through with messages, and do a cross-pollination where we check each other, and we find out what it is that in a blind test in which the people don't know about each other's messages, and what it is that we're getting, because we need to validate. And I think having Sonia do ITC and get the messages through from the station, from the Brazilian station, and then doing the medium readings and then comparing the two of them for an individual and a message. I think it's a wonderful idea.
I'm just amazed at what you're doing, really and truly. I'd like to reinforce Cheryl's point of just how professional it is, and how it's like nothing else that's ever been done.
I'd like to say that I've been fascinated by this topic. I love what you're doing, and I will volunteer. I sent you an email, and I have been doing little informal experiments with readings of my own, of people that have read for me on Suzanne Giesman's website, to work with people who are taking her courses online. So I have the opportunity to have more readings maybe than most. And I'm just fascinated by it, because now I'm getting people that I've worked with in hospice whom I've sat with when I transitioned. They're suddenly popping up in these readings. And I just think that this information is so valuable, and it's so important to memorialize it in some way. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
Oh, you're very welcome, Barbara. That is so cool that they are coming to you after they've transitioned. I love that.
Craig, would you like to close this section of the meeting for us?
Yeah, Dennis and Michelle, that was just extremely valuable, and it's inspiring, because the work that you're doing is such value to humankind that this is going to have an impact on people. And so this pioneering work that you're doing, I just applaud you for it, and thank you very much for that. And whatever we can do to help you, we certainly are going to be doing it. So thank you, and thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just a quick afterthought, everybody who's putting information in there, we will definitely get back to you on the chat. I know there's been a few people who have said that they would volunteer, so we'll definitely contact you. Just make sure that we have your email address.